Well, what can we say about the longevity of this man, Vishy Anand? It's simply amazing. Even at this age of 51 years and a half, he is playing some phenomenal chess at the Croatia Grand Chess Tour. He is in the joint second position right now. Let me show you the standings of the tournament. Right now, Jan Nepomniachtchi is at the top. MVL and Saric and Vishy Anand at number 2 spot. Anish Giri, Duda, Grischuk, Mamedyarov below them, and so on. And today, Anand has an excellent chance of finishing at the top. Here are some pictures that I selected for you to have a look at. They are very nice. First one is this, which gives you a feel of the tournament hall. It's a very nicely placed, like 5 tables there, 10 players. There's also a very nice picture of Vishy Anand, with this bright smile. This was after his queen sack against Grischuk. Very interesting one. Here is Mamedyarov offering a draw to Vishy Anand. You see at the top level, how do they do it? Like, just make this gesture with the hand. And a very nice picture of Nepo analyzing the game with Grischuk. Or is it someone else? I'm not sure. But the game that we are going to look at right now is Vishy Anand taking on Anton Korobov. And this was the game that Anand won on day 2. He drew with Mamedyarov in a better position and he drew with Grischuk in the third round. But in the second round of the day, he beat Korobov. And this is the game that we are going to analyze. Beautiful game. Let's have a look. E4, E6. Korobov is a very active player. He's quite aggressive. He likes to play quickly. He has a very good rating, rapid rating of about 2700, 2750 plus. So D4, D5, Knight C3, the French defense, and plays the classical variation F4, C5, and now Knight develops to F3, Knight to C6, Bishop E3. In this position, A6 is one move, C takes D4 is one move. Korobov, a French expert, he plays Bishop E7, Queen D2. Vishy is preparing for long castle here, castles. And once I was reading a book, I learned a very important thing which I want to share with you. Why is long castle, oops, not King D1. Why is long castle not a good move here? What is the problem for white? Yes, C4, and an excellent move by black, closes the position and now prepares to, just launch the pawns down the queen side, which would be very bad for for white. So therefore, white first takes here in this position. And now both moves are possible. Bishop C5, Knight C5, both lead to differing positions. Knight takes C5 was played in this game, long castles. And here the initial point was that because he's long castled and that white is going to go H4, H5 with his attack, black should also play A6, B5, B4 and try to play his attack. But Korobov has this idea of B6 and he's played it twice against Anish Giri with one win and one loss. The point is you play Bishop B7, then you get your rook to C8, and you are just trying to execute this Knight E4 idea rather than trying for this, queen side play. So it's more like a central approach to the position. You can't play directly Knight E4 here. I mean, you could, but after takes, Queen D8, Rook D8, takes, and Knight D2, this pawn does become weak, G4, BG2. And so first you develop your bishop to B7, then Queen E1. This was an interesting move. By the way, the game with Anish did continue H5, and then Korobov played Knight E4 here. And then later on, he went on to win this game after Knight E4, D4, Knight D4. This is what happened in one of the online events. But another game, Korobov had played H6, and back then Anish had won after Knight D4 and so on. So that was a good fight between the two. But Vishy had his improvement. He put his queen on E1 before moving his pawns forward, so that Knight E4 now is not a problem. The move cannot be played. Queen E8 by Korobov, once again renewing the threat of Knight E4, H5, knight e4 and h6, softening up the king. Very nice position. And after g6, he played the move bishop to b5. Now, this was an inaccurate move by Vishy. He could have played king b1. A very important point to note here is that bishop b4 does not work because of white to play. What does white do? Yes, you take here, and then let's say if you win the queen, I have knight f6 check, winning the queen back. And if you play knight e4, d takes e4, then after knight d2, white is clearly better. So king b1 was a better try, and then after rook c8, there is knight b5 coming to d4, that way. And here bishop b5 was played, rook c8, knight takes e4, d takes e4, and now a very mirror-like variation. If white plays knight d4, what should black do in this position? Knight d4 would be a mistake. Yes, knight takes d4. Kudos if you found this. And it's so nice, in one game only we broke one pin this way, the other pin this way. And now an important move, knight takes c2. And it is black who is winning here because the queen is attacked. The rook is ready to give a discovered check. The e8 bishop is hanging. Okay, so Anand said, well, I'll take on c6, queen takes c6, and I'll put my knight on d4. Now, in what I liked about Korobov's position after queen c4 and rook f d8 is that all his pieces are very well placed. His bishops are active. His queen is well placed. Okay, this is a double pawn, but it doesn't really matter much. So I like black's position. Anand went b3 and Korobov played his queen to c3, which is a fine move because if you went back, then Vishy could go c4 and then gain some space and would be fine. Queen c3. Now the queen trade is offered, but Vishy is slightly careful here because after queen takes, rook takes, the bishop is attacked. You can't play rook e1 because after rook e3, rook e3, rook d4, black wins two pieces. And if you play the other rook here, then after bishop f8, the h6 pawn starts to fall. So because of all these calculations, Anand said I'll first go g4 so that later on I can play g5 in that same line and I won't be in any trouble. Korobov played a5 and now Vishy went bishop c1. His point was he wanted to reroute his bishop to b2 and after this take with the rook, and he thought he had a good position, but here Korobov played a very nice move. Black to play. What would you do? All of a sudden, Korobov just withdrew his queen here. Very nice move. And earlier it was not possible, bishop was here on e3, but now it is. Now it is very strong, and also bishop e3 makes no threat because a4, you move the knight, I'll take on d1 with a check, and then you will lose this bishop. And also, by the way, c2 is hanging, so that's impossible. Queen c5 was a very nice move by Korobov. Suddenly, he's not exchanging the queens. Knight on d4 is hanging. So, Anand played bishop b2, a4 in the position. Rook h2, Vishy had to start making some awkward moves to defend his position. A3, bishop a1. And now rook d7, very good move, trying to put pressure down the d file. Now, rook came to d2, and here is where Vishy set a very devious trap. This is why he is still so dangerous. He's able to come up with some beautiful tactics. Here Korobov fell right into it, played rook c d8. The right move here was bishop f8, just trying to be safe. But my question to you is rook c d8, which looks such a natural move, which a player like Korobov with quite some time on his clock played. What's wrong with it? Can you find it? This is white to play. Yeah, well done if you found the move knight f5. What a beautiful shot. You can't take the knight because d7 is hanging, and after rook takes d2, there is knight e7 check, queen e7, rook d2, and we are able to simplify into an endgame, which you might think is even because of the opposite color bishops, but actually it's not. The main problem is this h6 pawn continuously creates a back rank problem for black, and at the same time your a3 pawn is going to become weak later on. This e4 pawn will be controlled and your majority on the king side is not rolling. So all in all, quite a tangible edge for white, although maybe not winning yet. Queen h4 by Korobov. He's trying to attack the h6 pawn, also threaten queen h1 check. And here Anand, I think he took his time, but he sort of misjudged. Maybe g5 would have been better, kind of blocking the position. And perhaps Vishy did not like this endgame, which was coming up after, let's say, take here, or even e3, take. But this position looks very promising for white after king c1. And you put your bishop from c3 to b4, this is going to fall. So overall, this is quite promising in a way. But Anand decided to play bishop d4. But this meant that Korobov got his chance. He could take the pawn, bishop b6, and give a check. And here he traded the queens. And this is the moment where black played a very nice move. Black to play, what would you do? h5, create a passer on the queen side. And now Anand's next move was very tricky. You know, this endgame I think requires a lot of time. Maybe Carsten Mueller, who is an endgame expert, can spend many hours on it and figure out, but I have some variations for you which you're going to love, which you're going to learn from it. King d2 was Anand's very practical attempt because it gives black a chance to go wrong. And in fact, after my analysis, which I haven't done for many hours, but my brief analysis, I think Korobov made a mistake on his next move, which is kind of the losing move, h takes g4. The way I want to explain it, but it's not as simplistic as that, is that stopping these two pawns means keeping the bishop on one diagonal. You see, bishop can remain on one diagonal and he can stop both the e pawn and g pawns. But if Korobov had played h4 here, then it would be kind of two different diagonals. Like bishop cannot stop this square he has to control, and it becomes even tougher. So this would be the simplistic way of explaining it. Like, let's say a couple of lines here: h3, bg3, king f8, c4, king e7, b4. Pawns look dangerous, but somehow, you know, you are able to hold it. At some point you will be able to blockade it. You know, bd5 is coming here, so you can't push your pawns easily, and the position is roundabout even. King e2, just another line here is that even if you get to win that pawn, black bishop comes and starts collecting these pawns here, and then it would once again be a draw. So once he played h takes g4 here, now Anand played this move bishop c5, and I think Korobov had king g7 as a better move. He wasted time with g3, which doesn't help because Vishy could pick up the pawn, and then if he had played g2, he would come back. You know, so I was wondering, okay, that what if we don't waste time on g3 and you play king g7? This is very interesting position, because after g5, fg, king g6, here I think Vishy can play a very nice move, bishop e7. And the point of it is that after king f5, which looks like the most natural move in this position, white has a very powerful move here. Can you find it? And I love this position. I love it simply. So the thing is, you play the move g6. And if he takes with the f pawn, you really don't have to worry because all the pawns are mangled, completely mangled. Okay. So if king e5, fg6, you go bishop c5, king e5, just c4. And these pawns are never queening because there is no flexibility in these pawns. They are all isolated. The other option is to take with the king, but now bishop goes to h4. Very strong move and the only move, king f5 and bg3. Once again, holding the pawn on e5. And if once the bishop is well placed and you save one pawn, then these three pawns are just ready to roll. So maybe king f5 is just a losing move after g6, which is a very nice move. g3 is another possibility here, but after c4, g2, bishop c5, king g2, b4, king f5 and bishop d4. It's difficult to say who is winning here. I think it's white who's better here. and should be winning. You also have to analyze, instead of going to f5, if he goes to g4, is this winning? But yes, I think white pawns are much quicker, and white has this pawn under control. So maybe that's why I came to this conclusion that h takes g4 itself may be a final error, because even with best play, white is winning. g3 was played, bishop takes a3, and now g5 was played in this position. If you go g2, I have bishop c5. On one diagonal, everything is stopped. g5, but now Anand was in time. Bishop c5, good move. Bishop e3, good move. Defending the pawn, and now he's all ready, because now these 4 pawns make no sense. Like, you cannot push them. f5 is always met with g takes f6, and the pawns are mangled up. So b5, king g4, a4, and it was at this point that Korobov resigned the game. He realized that he's going nowhere with his pawns, while Vishy's pawns are simply queening, and that's the reason why Anand won this game. I hope you learned a thing or two from this about French defense, about very interesting opening ideas, the opposite color bishop positions. I think Anand is playing really, really exciting chess, and in the last day he's going to play against Saric, Giri and Duda, and it's going to be exciting to see if he can finish at the top in the rapid. But remember, also the blitz points are going to be added to it. So 18 rounds of blitz, 1 point for each win. Here right now, rapid 2 points for a win. Everything will be added, and we'll have a Croatia Grand Chess Tour winner. Will it be Vishy Anand? Let's wait and watch. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.